Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, episode number 139 of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. Coming up on today's show, we will look back at the weekend that was in Las Vegas as Kyle Larson gets to victory lane for the first time in 2024. We'll look back at his victory, and we will look ahead to this weekend's action as well as the NASCAR Cup Series heads to preview the United Rental Work United 500. That's a mouthful. We'll also go over the latest news and notes, headlines from around the sport, and answer your questions with our Ask David segment coming up at the end of today's show. David Starr here with us as always. We're back after a week off as Dominic and I were under the weather last week, but we were fully recovered, back and out of the gates, ready to go. And David is here with us. David, how we doing? How about that win from Kyle Larson? Just total domination here this weekend in Vegas.
Man, it was amazing how good he was, and it was pretty cool to see Tyler Reddick give him a run for his money pretty much all through the whole entire race. And, but man, we wasn't really surprised, I believe, and Dominic can probably back this statistic up. I think that's his third win at Las Vegas, but you guys know you can't ever count out freaking Kyle Larson. The guy's incredible talent, and with that organization behind him, there'll be many more to come in a championship.
Yeah, no question about it. He looked really good, and the theme of this weekend, as Dominic Logano joins in right now, Dom, you and I talked that this felt like the first race of the NASCAR season, that you had drafting tracks the first 2 weeks of the Daytona 500 and the Atlanta race. And then this week, a first normal race of some sorts. And it went probably exactly as we expected. Chevrolet dominates, Hendrick dominates, and Kyle Larson dominates. And I would guess that three-headed monster is going to be the crew to beat this year. It's going to be Kyle Larson, it's going to be Chevrolet and Hendrick Motorsports. They showed they're ready to compete at championship level here.
No, they certainly did. They certainly did. And yes, David, to confirm that third win for Kyle Larson at Las Vegas. And that's the first track he picked up his first win with Hendrick in 2021. They won at fall last year to advance to the championship four and backed it up again, just picking up where they have left off, Tyler. And no, just the Kyle Larson and crew and Hendrick Motorsports, Chevrolet, with the exception of John Hunter Nemechek too. I'm going to extend this to the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series. With the exception of Nemechek winning that race in Las Vegas Saturday, every single National Touring Series race has been won by a Chevrolet driver. So there's no stopping Chevrolet right now. Remember from, what was it, 2002 to 2016, where Chevrolet was the dominant manufacturer, winning the Manufacturers Championship every single year in Cup Series. Well, it looks like they're back to that form. I mean, granted, early in the season, like you said, the real season beginning this past weekend in Las Vegas, outside of the restrictor plate and drafting tracks or tapered space or drafting style tracks. But I think we're in for a long, grueling season with Team Chevrolet towards the top of those leaderboards. Because right now, Tyler, it looks like Chevrolet is the manufacturer and the OEM to beat.
Yeah, I think so. Let's talk about Kyle Larson for a second. Then we can dive into Chevrolet and Team Hendrick and all that. Kyle Larson just dominates from start to finish. And we've seen him really just go up another notch since he went to Hendrick Motorsports. And we knew, David, that Kyle Larson was a talented race car driver when he was at Ganassi, but I always felt he was being held back from his full potential of what he could really be. First year, Hendrick obviously wins the championship. Last year was very solid. Now here we are this year, and it looks like Kyle Larson is back to championship form and the team to beat. I mean, that five team, with what they bring to the table week in and week out, and with what Kyle Larson's doing here, I mean, I would say right now, David, there's not a better driver in the sport right now than Kyle Larson.
Man, Tyler, I would definitely agree with you 110%. Just Kyle Larson reminds me of Tony Stewart, AJ Foyt, with the midgets and the sprint cars and, the dirt lake model. Anything he gets in, he goes to the front and wins. and he's one of the all-time best, and I would say, in NASCAR today, current drivers, he's probably the top of the list. He just his ability in any type of car to adapt to any type of car, week in and week out, that Kyle Larson is going to be fast. If he struggled in qualifying or practice, that they'll get his race car right, and you can always guarantee that he'll be there at the end. But, it's a great year for Kyle Larson to have already won his first race of the season in 2004, the third race out, and kind of cool. It's the third, 3 different winners we've had since Daytona. But to see what Kyle Larson is going to do in May and run the Indianapolis 500, he just won his first race on the Cup side. He's already has his ticket into the playoff. I mean, man, he just himself personally, his family, a lot of momentum there behind Kyle Larson, and to have Hendrick Motorsports, Chevrolet, all his great partners, man, it's good to be Kyle Larson for now and for many years to come. But I don't think Dominic or yourself, Tyler, I don't think any of us are surprised. I think I was a little bit more surprised last year that that he didn't make it to the end to run for a championship. But those things happen, and but man, I think Hendrick Motorsport, William Byron, Kyle Larson, those 2 guys right there got to be I don't know how you say that, favorites to win the championship this year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so. And Dom, David brings up a good point. Kind of the year of Kyle Larson of sorts, right? With running the Indy 500, and obviously that's going to take a lot of time away from his NASCAR activities of what that's going to demand of carb day and qualifying that car and all that, the back and forth he's going to have to do to have that playoff spot locked up week 3, to already know that you're there and get that taken care of. To me, that's got to be a huge relief in this circumstance for Kyle Larson of knowing that, hey, the NASCAR stuff and the IndyCar stuff was going to coexist. Like the fact that they've already got this taken care of, that's going to take, I think, the pressure off of doing this double in Indy and in the Coke 600. It's going to make life a lot easier.
Now, to even throw a weirder wild card into that, let's say Kyle makes the race, you win the Indy 500, man, that's going to be a harder time to try to get back to the Coke 600 and run the double and how that's all going to look. It's going to be crazy these next few months. But those conversations aren't going to be made public, but behind closed doors, you got to imagine Kyle Larson, Hendrick Motorsports, they're celebrating this little victory, this big victory, in fact, that Kyle Larson is in fact now a virtual lock for the NASCAR playoffs. And a little sidebar on that too, Tyler. Jeff Gordon was in the media center. This was at Atlanta, I want to say. And maybe I have the place wrong, but long story short of it was that Kyle Larson running this Indianapolis 500, Jeff had his hand in being able to help make this happen too, because Kyle Larson approached Jeff when they were getting Kyle to come to race at Hendrick Motorsports. Larson did say that if there was an opportunity to present itself, that he would love to run the Indianapolis 500 and not just do it as like a twilight of his career kind of deal. He wanted to run it in the prime of his career. And Jeff Gordon said, okay, let me see what I can do to make it happen. So Jeff Gordon had his hand in being able to make this happen, which is now a 2-year deal. And it was off the Dale Jr. download. I didn't remember that. But the long story short on that too, just the openness, the accepting that Hendrick Motorsports has done here. This I don't think would have flown 5 years ago, where we see this flexibility with Hendrick Motorsports. So you got to imagine they're embracing it. You got to imagine those conversations behind closed doors to see Kyle locked in the playoffs, to have this opportunity to run Indianapolis. It's just all around great for the organization.
Yeah, certainly so. David, I said we'd talk about Chevrolet here. Let's dive into that. 3 straight wins to start off the year for Chevrolet, and 2 from Hendrick, 1 from Team Trackhouse. Both of those are 2 different engines, by the way, as well. A Hendrick engine, 1 an ECR engine in those wins. But we know that Toyota and Ford introduced new bodies. But so far, Chevrolet, specifically with Hendrick Motorsports, David, the class of the field. Ford and Toyota looking like they're going to have to do a little catch up here to Chevrolet at this point.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to talk about the manufacturers right now, and Chevrolet is on top of the world. But, I think last year they probably knew that they needed to go to work. And Chevrolet, they, being a part of the Chevrolet family for years, knowing how they operate and seeing that blue oval take the 2023 championships, that didn't sit well with them. And man, you see they've done their homework, and and like you said, Tyler, there hasn't been a body change for the blue, for Ford. And but man, watching Ryan Blaney and watching him run since Daytona, he's had a lot of speed, and and seeing him win the championship last year, and them having a body change, and to see how it looks, how they, to me, that they're doing pretty good with it. His team, Penske and Ryan, and it's amazing that they're running that well already. You know what I mean? So you can never count out that Penske organization. Ryan Blaney, he's got a lot of momentum because he did win the championship last year. And man, I'm surprised that they're already as competitive as they are. And man, the Cup Series guys, this is the best. Every driver to race in the Cup level, I don't care if you're running dead last. Everybody's a champion. Everybody's great. All these teams are good, but I know that Chevrolet has dominated since they dropped the green flag for the season. But you can count out Toyota or Ford. Right now it looks like Chevy's the one they're chasing, but man, I don't think you got to look too far back, and everybody's working hard, and that's really what makes the Cup Series and Xfinity Series and the Truck Series exciting, to see who's really doing their homework and working. But I think once the Ford, all the Ford teams start getting this body figured out, I think you're going to see them come to the front, and it's going to be interesting how moving forward and each weekend and week out to see the progress, but I've been impressed with Ryan Blaney. I don't know about you guys, but that's one guy that's impressed me. And it just looked like after winning that championship, he's got a lot of momentum behind him, even though there was a body change.
Well, and David brings up a good point there, Dom. Yes, Chevrolet has won the first three races, but I don't feel like Ford and Toyota are very far off. I mean, Ryan Blaney, who David mentioned, came within an inch of winning in Atlanta, and Tyler Reddick probably had the second best car in the race at Las Vegas. And if that race would have gone another 2 laps, may have been a different outcome potentially, had that, gone Tyler Reddick's way here. So with that said, Dom, yes, Chevy is the class of the field right now, but I feel like Ford and Toyota are right there, though. The 3 wins doesn't tell the whole story.
You're right. The wins, Chevrolet looks dominant. Qualifying sessions, Chevrolet looks great too, but it really comes down to the race and those points that you acquire towards the manufacturer championships. And to add to that too, Tyler, kind of circling back here with Vegas, that Corey LaJoie spin doesn't happen with 20 laps to go. Tyler Reddick's long run speed was a lot better than Kyle Larson's long run speed. And Kyle had said his car was getting looser and looser the longer that run had gone. I truly feel we would have seen, had that race played out naturally, we'd be talking about the Tyler Reddick victory right now, or some sort of tangle between the 2 leaders and a completely different outcome, because those 2 were going to be dicing it out for the win. Tyler Reddick and his Toyota looked a lot faster on that final run.
Yeah. Let's talk about some guys that are kind of disappointing right now, David. Joey Logano was one of the favorites, I think, for all 3 of these past races. And, I mean, he started on pole and fell off fast and had a bad day. He's way back in points now. Didn't race well the first 2 races here. I'll be honest, David, I'm shocked. I thought Joey Logano was going to win one of these first 3 races here. He's off to a rough start.
It's kind of interesting because Joey Logano, man, at Las Vegas Motor Speedway over the years, God, he's had a lot of speed. And, Dominic could probably give you the stats, but I would say within the last 5 years, I think he's won 2 or 3 of them. And always ran good at Las Vegas, and looking back and reflecting on the Daytona 500, Joey Logano, man, I thought had one of the dominant cars there. He could fall back, go back to the front. He had a great Daytona car, and you know how it is at Talladega and Daytona. You can have a car that you can do anything with. You know, you can fall back, have a bad pit stop, drive all the way up to the front. But, you know, it's just you got to have some of that racing luck on your side, and he was obviously taken out in the big one towards the end, and you know, I think he struggled a lot at Atlanta, and you know, obviously I think he won the pole at Las Vegas, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so won the pole. But it looks like to me it's kind of interesting to see how good Ryan Blaney is running. You know, obviously there's a lot of changes that happened from last year to this year with that new body. But man, it's interesting to see how consistent and how much speed Blaney has, and to see his teammate like Joey Logano somewhat struggling. You know what I mean? And I would just think I just don't think they really got a grasp on this new body. They're they're going to figure it out. You know, and
Austin Cindric's running well too.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and you look at Noah Gregson this week in the 7th or 8th, whatever it was, and he had a good run. And but yeah, you know, Tyler, you did. It is interesting that Joey Logano is his year hasn't started off like we're used to seeing. You know, we're not used to seeing him. You know, not that he wasn't performing, but to see him struggling like he has been this season so far. But you guys know that Penske organization, Joey Logano, just like Kyle Larson and William Byron, man, Joey Logano is one of the best. You know, it's not going to take much once they figure out this new body. Man, he's going to be right there like he always is. You know, and that's what makes our sport so exciting. You know, there's Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, just own and own and own. You know, and that's why that series is so competitive. But Tyler, you're right. It's interesting to see, and interesting for us to be talking about Joey Logano struggling so far.
Yeah, certainly. Another guy that's struggling, Dom, Brad Keselowski. We saw him get off to a rough start a couple of years ago, his first year at RFK, and never really recovered, never rebounded from there. Now here we are in 2024. He's off to a slow start, has not been running well. There was high expectations for him and that team. He's still looking for his first ever win at RFK Racing. Obviously, things can change. You're one win away from being right back in the playoffs and playoff contention, but this is certainly not the start that they were hoping for on a year with a lot of pressure to perform.
A lot of pressure to perform. Brad Keselowski's riding a winless streak that dates back to 2021. And yeah, he says he's not talking about it and he's not worried about it. But you got to be thinking he is concerned about that. If you haven't won in 3 years, you're somewhat becoming irrelevant. And Tyler, I think the comparison here is, and maybe it's a fair comparison, maybe it isn't. Brad Keselowski is kind of like this generation's Bill Elliott, where he won a ton of races with his premier organization. Bill Elliott running with Helling Myers, winning the championship, and then going off to start his own team. Bill Elliott ran that 94 car for, I believe, 6 or 7 seasons and never won a race. Now, Grant, we're not that far into this RFK venture. We're year 3, but we haven't seen Keselowski pull off points awarding win. We've seen him come close, dangerously close. We've seen Keselowski even lead the points, but we just haven't seen that victory. And David, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on this as a competitor, as a racer, especially someone who's a past champion like Brad Keselowski. He may tell the media one thing, but what are those conversations like behind closed doors? What is Brad Keselowski thinking about the fact that he has not visited victory lane in 101 races?
And, you know, something that comes to mind just hearing you talk about Brad and the Roush organization. I look back, and y'all might know the year, but Kevin Harvick won 4 or 5 races 3 or 4 years ago. Forget what year it was. And then the following year, there was a little rule change. They came out with a template, and I think a template that was you put about 5 inches in front of the rear tire on both sides of the car. And that was a rule change for the Ford body. And man, the following year, and man, I'm trying to remember, you guys might correct me here in a minute. Might have been 2 or 3 years ago, but Kevin had, man, just a great year, winning 5 races. And then the next year he struggled, and it was just, man, what happened, you know? And it was just, they made a change, not the body, but just the side of the body. They came out with a new template, and, you know, Harvick's team was doing something there, and they had to change it back to fit the template. And man, he struggled all year long. It was interesting, and it was hard to understand what was going on. But you look at Brad Keselowski and look at Chris Buescher, what they did last year, and we saw the progression of that organization really getting better week in and week out. And it was, we talked about it, we watched it. And Chris Buescher, I think he won 2 races, might have been 3. It was impressive, and Brad was right there with him, you know. And I just knew towards the end of the season that Brad was going to win a race. Well, he didn't. He was very competitive, and then you know, the season ends. Ford has a body change, and then we start the season off 2024, and looks like, you know, RFK, Brad Keselowski, that organization is struggling a little bit right now trying to figure out that body. And I'm thinking it's the body because, man, they had it. You guys see, they had it going on, and it looks like to me that they're struggling right now. And, you know, it's going to be interesting to watch that progression again to see if they can get their arms wrapped around this new body and get it figured out, you know. So I think that new body's really thrown them off. That's my opinion, you know. And yeah, it's concerning, you know, it's concerning. And, you know, Brad Keselowski can still get the job done, you know, and, you know, Kevin Harvick can get the job done, you know, and he just didn't have the car to really get the job done. And I think that's what we're seeing with Brad. And yes, it can be frustrating, but one thing cool about it, I think the organization has his name on it now, so he's somewhat protective. So however long it takes him to get it all figured out and put the right people in place, you know, we'll see Brad Keselowski. I'll be surprised if we don't see him win in 2024 just because he ran so strong, you know, the second half of the season last year. You know what I'm saying? But my opinion is, and it'd be interesting to hear y'all's, I really think this new body change has really thrown a lot of the Ford teams off. Not all of them, but some of them.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. You're talking comparisons now to Bill Elliott. I think he's the NASCAR version of Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson won the Super Bowl early in his career with the Seattle Seahawks. You know, things didn't work out at the end. He goes to the Denver Broncos, had a bad first year with the Broncos. Second year was improved, but not where he wanted it. Now Russ is looking for employment elsewhere. He got released by the Denver Broncos. He didn't have an ownership stake in the Broncos. But you look at Keselowski here. I mean, I think David makes a good point. If he didn't have an ownership stake in that team, we would be talking about Brad Keselowski racing for his job right now. I think that's what we're looking at. That level of kind of disappointment of something to prove here.
And I think to add to that element as well, being a past champion comes with a lot more clout, a lot more weight, a lot more credibility. This was Keselowski who finished second in points in 2012. We'd be talking about he wouldn't have ownership stake. He'd be racing for his job, like you said. But it'll be fascinating to see where the 6 team, the 17 team go. There's bigger expectations with Chris Buescher winning 3 times last year. Keselowski, you got to figure he's getting back to victory lane at some point, but you got to imagine that confidence shakes a little bit if you're year 3 and you've had your teammate win 4 times now and you have yet to win in your own car.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Great point there. Let's look ahead now to this week in the NASCAR Cup Series as we head to Phoenix Raceway, the same site of the championship race later on this year. And David, I'll start with you. Phoenix, we've seen some really good racing over the years at Phoenix. And this is a very interesting opportunity because, I mean, I know it's early in the year, but a great chance to get notes and figure out things for when they come back for the finale in November here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You know, and the guys that we talked about it at the start of the show, Kyle Larson, William Byron, uh, God
Ryan
dang it,
Blaney.
Daniel Suarez. You know, these guys, man, that already have a win this year, man, they can go there and try different things and you know, to kind of get ready for the Phoenix race at the end of the year. You know, they can try stuff, kind of be a test session for them. You know, and it's you know, it's interesting to have two races there, and the first one being early on in the season. You know, because you know it's interesting, and I'd like to know, you know, are these guys that know they're probably going to make the playoffs, or you know, or are they going to be trying a new setup from you know, this past October when they crowned the champion, you know, and are they just going to go try to win another race and to make the chase, you know? So it's interesting. It would be interesting to know the different teams' strategy. You know what I'm saying? And you know, now that Kyle Larson won last week, you know, do they go there and try something totally different just to see if they can improve on what they had, you know, at the championship weekend at the end of the year last year, you know? So, you know, I would just think some of these guys that have, you know, the three guys that have won already, you know, how they approach Phoenix, because that is an important racetrack for the end of the year, you know? And it'd just be interesting to know the strategy there. I think that's a very interesting question, and I'd like to hear y'all's opinion on it.
Yeah, it's interesting because Dom, here's I know you're the stat guy, but I got a stat for you here. Last 7 races at Phoenix, we've had 7 different winners over that stretch. So this is, you know, we talk about getting ready for the championship and getting your notes and all that to figure out if you already have a win, type to potentially experiment here. I would want to be in a position, Dom, where I feel the most confident. What are we going to do that puts us in the best position this week? And then if it works this week, how can we do it again in the fall race to potentially win a championship here? Like that's at least my strategy. What I would be thinking is let's put our best foot forward and let's see if we can run it back in November.
Which makes a lot of sense too. And hearing Cliff Daniels talk about it, crew chief for Kyle Larson this past weekend, totally different racetrack, but Las Vegas was in the playoffs. And for Cliff Daniels to acknowledge that there was a lot of transfer of notes, like ideas, things that they used in October that they used for the spring race, you betcha that teams are going to take note and what worked, what didn't here in the Phoenix race in March to apply to the race in November. Got to imagine that's what happened with Ross Chastain. He won the race in November and he was top 5 in the spring race that year. So I don't know. I feel like there's so much you can learn. I feel like there's a lot on the table. Even if you don't have a good race, that could actually end up being really well. And Tyler, to kind of, you gave a stats comparison. I'll give an NFL comparison where you sometimes have 2 bitter rivals, let's say Packers and Bears, for example, that face off twice in the regular season and they meet in the postseason. The team who lost more or lost 2 games in the regular season is going to come out much different in that playoff game. That's what we're going to see here. The teams that necessarily struggle might be better in the fall time if they're still in championship contention. There's so much at stake, I would feel like, riding on this weekend. Granted, it's the 4th race of the year, but you got to imagine there's a lot of crew chiefs taking notes, a lot of drivers taking mental notes as well.
One more note before we move on to our news and notes. I want to bring up David here. David, Phoenix, a short track of sorts. You know, I know not the smallest track by any stretch and not the largest track, but, you know, still technically a short track. With that in mind, you know, we've raced at intermediate tracks the last couple of weeks, a super speedway the first week. I'm very curious just to see how good the racing is with this type of format. We talked about the body styles, Ford and Toyota earlier. This will be their first time running their short track package here this week with this race here at Phoenix.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it because, you know, we all know that, man, one of my favorite racetracks. It's an awesome place. And, man, the restarts are incredible when they, when they cut the dog. I don't know if you call it the dog leg. They cut that front straightaway off. Man, they go into turn 1, 4 wide, 3 wide, sometimes 5 wide. It's amazing, but it'll be interesting to see what cars have it figured out and who doesn't. We've seen the dominance of Chevrolet, and it'd be interesting to see, from last year to this year, the people that had it figured out last year, if they still haven't figured it out now. So it's going to be fun to watch. But man, what an awesome racetrack, and a short track that produces some really great racing, and it's going to be interesting to see which guys are running up near the front most of the races, most of the race. But man, what an awesome short track. It's not really like your Bristol and Martinsville, but it is a short track and lots of braking. It's just it's a fun track to race on, and it's definitely a fun racetrack to watch a race at. That's for sure.
All right, guys, let's get to our news and notes. The latest headlines around the sport. Dominic, where do we begin?
Let's begin a little different this week. We're talking about Phoenix. We're talking about packages. It's going to be a little bit of a different short track package we'll see here at the 2024 Children's Shriners 500 at Phoenix Raceway this weekend. So the Cup cars, and I'm taking this from Daily Downforce and CBS Sports and some of the different outlets that have been reporting on this, but we will see a different rear diffuser in the back with fewer vertical strakes. So they're those little parts that come out of the bottom rear part of the car. And the spoiler itself is going to go from 2 inches to 3 inches. And this is supposed to compensate for the lower downforce that this package had last year, about a 35% decrease from 2022. So interesting to see how this will race, how this impacts strategy and the overall field this weekend. But got to start talking the weekend. You can't start talking about it without talking about the fact that we will have a little bit of a different rules package with the Cup cars.
Different rules package. David, does that intrigue you? What do you make of that?
Man, it's interesting that, because I just think the racing at Phoenix, my opinion, the racing has been really good over the years. So it's kind of interesting to have another, a downforce package change. You know what I mean? I don't really know what NASCAR is looking for. In my opinion, the racing's been incredible there over the years. So it'd be interesting to see what they're trying to learn. I don't know enough about it, to really talk about it, but it's going to be interesting. Be interesting to learn a little bit more about it and see how the race plays out with a little bit different package. And Dom, you have some information there. Are they putting more downforce in the car? Or are they taking it away?
So the thought is having a spoiler go from 2 and 3. It's going to be a 3-inch spoiler this week, and it was 2 inches last year. And the thought was that it's going to compensate to provide some more downforce back to the cars as opposed to last year. And I guess the comparison from 2022 to 2023 was the cars had about 35% less downforce. I don't know what the percentage ultimately gets back to, but this extra inch from going from 2 to 3 inches will add some sort of downforce element.
Yeah, they're going to have more grip and more rear grip in the car, obviously, with the bigger spoiler, So to me, and I guess I asked a question to you guys, I thought the racing there at Phoenix has been incredible the last 2 or 3 years, been unbelievable. But, it'd be interesting to put more mechanical grip in the race car aero-wise with a bigger spoiler. You got a bigger spoiler, you get more downforce in the rear. It'd be kind of interesting to see if it throws off some of the cars, if it makes the car to have more grip in the rear, but does it pick up the front of the car? Will the front of the car turn as good? Will the teams fight a little bit of tightness in the center of the corner because the rear of the car is getting so much more downforce? It'd be interesting to see how it all plays out. But it's, I guess I asked a question to you guys. I thought the racing's been great there the last couple of years on the Cup side.
I think so. I think the racing's been very good. We've seen championship caliber races in those finales the last couple of years. But what I find interesting too, Dom, is that history tells us the last couple of years, when NASCAR introduces something new and the teams have to learn and adapt, Nobody is better at learning and adapting than Hendrick Motorsports. And with Hendrick already with 2 wins, with how well Chevrolet has started off the year, I haven't even looked at the odds yet. We'll talk about the odds here in a bit, but I would think that this sounds right up Hendrick Motorsports' alley, this situation.
Well, we'll leave it at that. We'll talk more about that in odds, but odds aside, absolutely a great team that has just been great with technology and adapting. And I mean, you have to even go back to when they first started the team. Rick Hendrick knew what he was doing when he hired Harry Hyde, championship winning crew chief with Bobby Isaac. And from day one, wanting just to have the best people around and the best technology around and that stop at nothing cost to win, Hendrick Motorsports is going to bring their A game as always.
Yeah, certainly so. Don, what's next?
2024 Shriners Children's 500 odds is what's next. And taking a look at some of the opening odds for this race weekend, no surprise, last week's winner and somebody who has gotten it done at Phoenix before in a championship race. Kyle Larson is your opening odds-on favorite to win the 2024 Shriners Children's 500 at 6-1. Next in is our champion, our defending series champion, Ryan Blaney, at 7-1. William Byron, who won this race in the spring, at 7.5-1. The winner of the November race, Ross Chastain, at 8.5-1. Former Phoenix winners take up the next couple spots with Denny Hamlin at 9-1, Martin Truex at 10-1, Chase Elliott, fan favorite, 18-1. And some of the select drivers throughout this field include Bubba Wallace at 30-1, Alex Bowman, 35-1, Michael McDowell, perhaps a value pick, and Arizona native sitting at 100-1, Tyler. Some of the largest odds, though, you have to go all the way back to 3 guys at the bottom of the field. Justin Haley, Kaz Grala, Derek Kraus, they are all sitting at 1,000-1 to win in Phoenix. So certainly there's a little look and a little peek at what the odds are looking like this weekend.
There you go. So with that said, let's take our picks now. I'll go ahead and get us started, guys. I said that I really like Hendrick and Chevrolet, the way that they're running, and this circumstance seems right up their alley. I know Kyle Larson dominated last week, but I'm going to go the other end, his teammate. I'm going to go William Byron to get it done this week. David, I feel like it might be a back and forth all year long between Kyle Larson and William Byron as the 2 drivers potentially to beat. I feel better about Byron this week than I do Kyle Larson, but not by much. Who do you like this week?
Man, there's so many, but I'm going to step out there and probably say, I think Kyle Busch, they're really been running pretty strong. They've had some mistakes, but they've had fast race cars, a lot of speed. And, man, I just think Kyle Busch, he runs all these racetracks good, but I'll go with Kyle Busch this weekend just because I think, he's so hungry for a win that looks like to me that he'll get it done here in Phoenix this weekend.
All right. Dominic, who you got?
Man, I've been thinking about this back and forth. There's so many good drivers. You got to think the Chevrolet camp is going to be fast too, but I'm going to say Toyota breaks that this weekend. And somebody who had an issue in the November race, a win here can make up for some of that heartbreak he faced. Christopher Bell to get it done in the desert this weekend.
Oh, okay. That'd be interesting if it goes down that way. Anything else we got news and notes wise, Dom?
That's it as far as news and notes. We're on to everyone's favorite segment, Tyler. Refresh our memory. What's that called?
It's called Ask Dave. Ask David, our mailbag segment we bring you each and every week. And submit questions to us on Facebook, facebook.com/Starr Podcast, on X @Starr Podcast, and by email, davidstarrpodcast@gmail.com. Our first question in the inbox this week comes from Marcus. Marcus wants to know, guys, how many winners will we have before the playoffs start? Is 17 winners a possibility? David, let's start with you. How many winners do we have? Is 17 possible?
Man, Marcus, that's a great question because, that's really been one of our main topics last year. There were so many different winners, and we talked about that a lot. It's like, man, with all these different people winning, it could be where, how many spots are available for the playoffs, guys? 17, 16?
16.
What is it?
16.
So refresh my memory. Last year we had, was it 14 winners?
That sounds
Different
about
winners?
right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So man, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see 16 different winners. We got 3 different ones so far, and I think, if the four teams can get it together, it wouldn't surprise me. Ford's not that far behind. Toyota's right there. I don't know about you guys, but I think we're going to have, we could possibly see 16 different winners in 2024. I mean, we're getting off to a good start. We've had 3 races. We had 3 different winners. So be kind of interesting to see who's going to win the Phoenix race this weekend, who could have our 4th different winner, So it is possible.
Yeah. I'll say this, Dom, where I disagree with David is I think that Hendrick Motorsports is in for a year of domination with what we've seen already, especially with Chevy having an edge like we talked about. Like, I think that Kyle Larson and William Byron are going to be in victory lane so much this year that is going to take away the possibility of 16 different winners. I could still see a high number. I could see 13, 14, maybe even 15, but 16 or more, I think there's not enough wins to go around, Dom.
And with the versatility of this car and the parity that it offers, yeah, you're going to see some comers and goers like we've seen the last couple of years. I got to feel like I lean more towards what you're saying there too, Tyler, with Hendrick looking so good and just being right place, right time in a lot of these situations. Now, it's not impossible to approach that number as we get closer to the playoffs. Like David said, 3 for 3 is a great start. 2022 was awfully close to having 17 different winners. We had 16 winners entering Daytona that year, but keep in mind too, Kurt Busch was out with concussion protocol, so we technically had 15 playoff eligible drivers. So we have seen the 16 win mark happen, but man, it's going to be very tough to see that, I think. And I'd be curious to hear what other drivers have to say on this topic too. Like, do you need 2 wins to feel safe, or are we going to see that flat out dominance by one organization where you don't have to rely on 2 wins? One will be enough this year.
See, here's what I wish they would do, David, to the playoff system. If you win a race, you should be in no matter what, not have to worry about, we're going to have 16 winners or 17 winners. Like, they should be able, David, in my opinion, to adjust the number of playoff spots depending on how many winners there are.
Well, Tyler, you got a good point there. One of the things I've heard a lot from a lot of the great race fans that we have around the world is they wanted NASCAR to really stop changing that format, And I agree with you, Tyler, but I think we have what we have, and it'd be interesting to see that, and I agree with you, I don't know if we're going to get to 16 different winners because how strong Hendrick is, but, if it possibly happened, to see how that would play out, you know what I mean? To see who would be in, who wouldn't, and how all that works, but yeah, it wouldn't hurt for them to add another 1 or 2 if it happens like that. But the fans, from what I've heard over the years, they just want the rules to stay the same, the playoff rules, and let's go race, and it'll play out like it's supposed to, you know what I mean? But it's gonna be interesting. But just hearing Dominic and Tyler, you talk about it, if Hendricks does continue on this path, it's possible we wouldn't see that many of them. But it remains to be seen. That's what takes us to the races while we're glued to our televisions to see how the Cup Series race is going to play out week in and week out, Yeah.
Next question in the inbox. This one comes from Larry. Larry wants to know, David, I'm reaching out for some life advice. I'm wanting to look younger, and you do not look your age. What's your secret to looking young, and should I consider Botox?
I don't even know how to answer that. Man, man, by the grace of God, I'm not 20 years old anymore, but personally, my wife tries to feed me the best she can, but I'm not always home to eat a great meal. So I'm just like most of us, fast food restaurants. And, but man, I don't know. It's just, my mom and dad gave me some great genes, and I still have the energy like I am 20. And, you get a gray hair here and there. And man, I there's no Botox in my face or anywhere. So, I don't know, how every person lives, man. Whatever makes you happy, you know what I mean? That's like, we're all different human beings, and we like different things. And, I would just say, if Botox is what would make you, if you think that would enhance your look or make you look younger and that would make you happy, I'm all for it. You know what I mean? So whatever you got to do to appease yourself and be happy with the way you look, man, I'm all for it. I just, I don't put no bleach in my, I don't dye my hair. And, my wife lets me know every day, hey, you're getting some more grays here and there. And that just, so be it. You know what I mean? So, I don't know if I still look young. I think, we're all getting old. I'm just blessed that I can grow old, because I have a lot of great friends that they can't grow old. They're not with us anymore. You know what I mean? So, man, Dominic's got a beautiful family, beautiful son, beautiful wife. Tyler, you do too. Y'all got big careers and big things ahead of us. Man, we're just, as long as we can make a living and enjoy everything, and I'm all for that. And I definitely, there's no, if Dane, I like to look good. We can't slow that process down of aging, and some age gracefully, others don't, and some are blessed with better genes than others. But if somebody wants to do Botox or do this or do that, man, I don't see anything wrong with it.
What an incredible answer that was. David, I got to add a follow-up question to that. You mentioned about, dyeing your hair and all that. When's the point, if you're a man, that you're too old to be dyeing your hair, that you just got to let it go gray? Like, there's got to be a cutoff age at some point, right?
Yeah, hey man, I don't judge anybody. You know what I mean? I don't judge anybody, and man, Tyler, there is probably a cutoff point. Man, I'm not the person to say when that is. I mean, I have some friends that are in their 80s that, man, they look great. They're aging great. Some of them still work out. I mean, to me, there's no right and wrong. It's everybody's personal preference what that is. So, man, yeah, that's a great question. Makes you stop and think about it, but I'm not really sure. It's a great question, and I'm not real sure if I have the answer for it. Again, at the end of the day, it's all about what makes you happy and how you want to take care of yourself and what you want to do. I know, a lot of women. My wife, she likes Botox, and she wants to look good and try to fight the aging process, which I can respect. Me, I'm just, man, I have a lot of energy, and, man, if you get gray here and there, I mean, just so be it. It'll be what it'll be, but I've never dyed my hair. I mean, can you imagine us dyeing our hair, and then, man, it doesn't work out right, or the dye gets, man, all your hair could fall out. Hell, I'm fighting that already. So I don't know, Dominic. Hey, help us out here, buddy. I don't have all the answers.
Yeah, no,
Oh my
I've never
God.
dyed my hair either. I remember Tyler, I think we'd made like a crazy bet or something about if we got 1,000 subscribers to our page or something, I would dye my hair blonde, but that was years ago. So I never done it. I've never done it. So I know my luck though, I'd probably get the dye in my eyes and mess up something.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
being a media personality myself, I've said for a long time, like, I have, black hair. It's all there. No grays, thankfully, or anything like that. Not losing my hair. But I will, when I start to gray, I'll dye it, and color it until I look ridiculous for being at an age of colored my hair. That's what I'll do. That whether that's 65 or 70, once looks ridiculous for me to be a certain age color my hair, I'll stop doing that. That's my plan when I get to that point. But whatever makes you feel good, like David says, the Botox or coloring your hair, whatever. I mean, David, as long as the carpet matches the drapes, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And hey, absolutely. Sometimes I see somebody and, I kind of keep my thoughts to myself, but, I'm like, wow. I mean, they must not have a mirror, but, again, everybody's got to, hey, whatever makes you happy, man, is everybody's happy in the world. I'm happy. You know what I mean? So, I don't judge anybody. I hope they don't judge me, and man, it's all good. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. And, we all like to look good, and man, if you could slow that aging down, if there was a magic pill, I'd be standing in line to buy it, but there's not one. You know what I mean? So I just keep on living and doing what I love to do, and racing cars, and having great friends like you guys, and have a great family. And man, it'll be what it'll be. You know what I mean? But I can tell you, I'm losing my hair pretty damn fast. I don't know how to stop that process.
Oh.
I need some advice.
The great Deion Sanders once said, if you look good, you play good, you feel good.
Absolutely.
Or it was, if you look good, you feel good, you play good. Yeah, that's what it was. But nonetheless, guys, before we get out of here, let's go around the room, see what everybody's got going on this week. David, you're off to where Dominic and I just got back from. You're about to head to Vegas, right?
I am. I'm here at my shop still. It's almost midnight, and I got two groups coming tomorrow. I got Halo for Freedom, kind of a beautiful, cool organization that brings wounded warriors to our racing school. They fly them in from all over the country, and one might be missing a limb or an arm, and no matter what the situation is, we'll put them in our race cars, and we'll let them drive 10 laps at 150 miles an hour. And man, we've been involved with this for years, and it'll bring you to tears, and thank God for the men and women that fight for our beautiful country. And to see them parachute into the Texas Motor Speedway some, but man, to see the joy and to see the spirit they have, and to be such proud Americans, and they only have one leg, it puts it all in perspective, So tomorrow, I think we got about 75 wounded warriors coming. It's going to be an awesome day. One, I look forward to it annually. And then when that's over with, we have another group of about 50 people coming, and I think it starts at 6 p.m. We got an evening event, and then after that, so with Thursday and Friday, we're getting ready to go to Las Vegas to take our Connectus Wireless limo. They're having the Channel Partners is having a big convention down there. It's wireless, a lot of wireless companies, and Connectus is a sponsor of mine on the NASCAR side, but Connectus Wireless also sponsors my racing school, and it'd be kind of cool to go down there and meet a lot of the Verizon people, and meet a lot of the agents that sell the Verizon products through Connectus. It's always a fun time. And Tyler, Dominic, I can assure you that one thing, I'll dread the drive from Dallas, Texas to Las Vegas, but always fun when you get near the town and all the excitement happens. You know what I mean? The drive there and the drive back, not so much, but give me some time to kick back and relax and enjoy the scenery on the way from Dallas to Las Vegas.
Well, there's plenty of Whataburger stops between here and there. So happy to do that. Got some Buc-ee's as well to get through that. So safe travels to you, my friend, and hope you have a great time. Dominic, what's going on with you?
We'll be out in Phoenix Raceway this weekend. We'll be covering the action out there with Jonathan Field, our managing editor, and Felice Aragon, who happens to be my wife, great photographer herself. So the three of us will be covering all the action out there. And yeah, we'll be, I think, having a good time out there. And we're going to take a little trip out to the Pacific Northwest too later this month. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, looking forward to having David rolling through our backyard here with that hauler and trailer, or the limo, I should say. And yeah, hopefully cards line up to meet up out here, David.
Yeah, hopefully I get to see you guys. Disappointed that I won't be racing in Phoenix, man. It's just one of my favorite. I love them all, but Phoenix holds a special place in my heart. I've won there once, and had some great runs. And the racing school business kind of gets in the way a little bit of my racing, but I'm looking forward to getting back on the racetrack here very soon and getting back to racing in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. So, but you got to take care of the sponsors and take care of the racing school business, and looking forward to getting back in our Xfinity car here soon. That's for sure.
Absolutely. How about you, Tyler? What you got going on the next few days?
Just hanging out here in Dallas next couple of days myself, but it's all good here. So
I think Tyler's going shopping. Are you going shopping, Tyler?
Shopping? I don't think I'm going shopping. That's news to me.
You need to go shopping. You look like a different person, I hear.
Oh, yeah. I might need some new clothes. Yeah. Yeah.
Tell everybody what's going on, man. Why? What's happened?
Oh, man. I don't like to brag on myself. You know, I'm not one to talk about myself much. But,
yeah, you got to brag on this one, Tyler. We're proud of you, man. It's awesome.
I'm down about 60 pounds. I got ways to go still, but made some significant progress. But see, here's my fear, David, is I don't want to go buy new clothes and then them be too big here in a couple months, whatever, for me either. Like my mom was telling me, like, go to the Goodwill, just get some clothes that'll last you for now, or something.
That's awesome, man. Well, your mom had a great point, so you might hold off on shopping this weekend because I think I think you're telling me I hear and that you want to lose more weight. So yeah, so until you get to the weight you're happy with, I'd wait, you know what I mean? Because you don't want to have to go shopping twice.
Oh,
that's expensive,
Well, and to add to that too, Tyler, the fan question that came in for David about asking his secret about staying young. What's been your secret to shedding the 60 pounds? I know you still are wanting to lose more, but what's been the keys to your success on it?
Eating less. I'm down to less than 1,000 calories a day, food wise. Don't eat breakfast, usually eat a pretty decent lunch and then a very light dinner, and try to stay away from alcohol and don't try to drink too much soda other than like a Coke Zero or something, but drink a lot of water too. So yeah, I've been doing that and it's worked out well. And so just keep on at it. So yeah.
Very inspiring. Very inspiring.
Thank you.
Oh, I got a question for you, man. Me and Dominic know you well, and you kind of, you're a ladies band. You always got all these dates, man. You're gonna be a new band and trimmed up and everything. Hell, we're never gonna see you. Gonna be busy 7 days a week, going on all these dates, man. Is there a future Miss Tyler Jones is there a Miss Tyler Jones in the future here?
Eventually, I would think so. I got to say, not to my own horn, but it's funny, like going to Vegas, when you're cut down a bit, the ladies start to notice and, had a lot more attention, coming my way this past weekend than normal. So that was neat.
Well, we're excited for you. So that's good.
So life is good. Can't complain.
Very, very inspiring.
Lot to be thankful, lot to be grateful for, and I get to hang out each and every week with two of my best friends doing this show each week. So always a pleasure being with you guys, and we'll put the checker flag out on this edition of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. New episodes out each and every week, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe, hit the like button, leave us a 5-star review, or don't leave us one at all. Also, hit us up on social media, facebook.com/Starr Podcasts, on X @Starr Podcasts, and also you can email us, davidstarrpodcast@gmail.com is where you can find us there. We will be right back here next week. Appreciate you joining us. For Dominic Alagan, David Starr, I am Tyler Jones. Saying so long. It's been another edition of Let's Go Racing. We will see you next week.